Planet of the Apes was never designed to comfort its audience. From the very beginning, it aimed to unsettle, to create a quiet sense of unease that lingers long after the story ends. While many people remember it for its unforgettable final image, the deeper warning was present much earlier, woven carefully into the narrative. Beneath the surface, the film explored ideas about power, belief, control, and human arrogance in ways that were subtle yet deeply provocative. It wasn't just a science fiction story about intelligent apes ruling over humans. It was a reflection of humanity at a fragile moment in history, presented in a way that made people uncomfortable because it felt too close to reality. One of the lesser-known truths is that the film almost never made it to the screen. The biggest obstacle wasn't funding or casting, but uncertainty. Studios were unsure whether audiences would accept a story where humans were no longer dominant. The idea itself felt risky, even threatening. Executives worried that viewers might laugh at the concept of intelligent apes or reject the film's bleak outlook. At a time when movies often reassured audiences with clear heroes and hopeful endings, this story did the opposite. It questioned human superiority and presented civilization as something fragile rather than inevitable. The project survived because a small group of creators believed that discomfort was the point, not a flaw to be fixed. That tension only grew during early production, especially when it came to the visual design of the apes. The first makeup tests were so unconvincing that they nearly ended the project altogether. The faces looked stiff and artificial, and instead of being compelling, they were unintentionally humorous. There was a real fear that the entire film would be perceived as a joke. This forced the team to take a major risk by developing advanced prosthetics that could move naturally with the actors' expressions. It was a demanding process that required hours of preparation each day and placed physical strain on the performers. Ironically, that limitation shaped the performances in a powerful way. The controlled movements and deliberate speech of the apes became part of their identity, adding to the film's unsettling tone. As the film evolved, it became clear that it wasn't interested in offering hope. Unlike many stories of its time, it didn't promise redemption or restoration. There was no clear path to fixing what had gone wrong. Instead, it presented a world that was stable in a disturbing way. The system worked, but not in a way that benefited everyone. Authority was deeply rooted, and the structure of society was maintained through routine and belief rather than force. This lack of resolution made the film emotionally restrained. Scenes often ended without closure, and conflicts didn't lead to satisfying breakthroughs. That wasn't an oversight. It was a deliberate choice to avoid comforting the audience. Another unsettling aspect of the film is how it portrays power. Instead of dramatic displays of tyranny, power is shown as something ordinary and procedural. Laws are followed, systems operate smoothly, and authority figures act calmly and confidently. There are no exaggerated villains shouting orders or chaotic scenes of oppression. Instead, control is maintained through routine and acceptance. This makes it more disturbing because it feels believable. The system doesn't rely on constant violence, it relies on legitimacy. Once people accept the rules, enforcement becomes almost invisible. That quiet normalization of power is what makes it so difficult to challenge. The film also takes a unique approach to truth. It doesn't show knowledge being destroyed in obvious ways. Instead, truth is managed carefully. Information exists, but it is controlled through interpretation and accessibility. Certain facts are ignored, reframed, or deemed irrelevant. This is far more effective than outright suppression because it prevents people from even questioning what they don't fully understand. Those in control aren't ignorant, they are selective. They allow just enough truth to keep society functioning while hiding anything that might destabilize it. This creates a system where reality itself becomes shaped by those in power. As the story progresses, the ending redefines everything that came before it. It isn't just a shocking twist for the sake of surprise. It forces the audience to rethink the entire narrative. What initially feels like a story about survival in an unfamiliar world suddenly becomes something much more unsettling. The realization shifts the meaning of every interaction, every rule, and every justification presented earlier in the film. The restraint of the ending is what makes it so powerful. There's no dramatic explanation or emotional cue guiding the audience's reaction. Instead, it leaves space for the realization to settle in, making it even more impactful. One of the boldest elements of the film is how it portrays humanity. Rather than presenting humans as purely innocent victims, it shows them as complicit in their own downfall. Many of the humans in the story are passive, conditioned, and resigned to their situation. They don't fight back or question their reality. This portrayal challenges the idea that collapse always comes from external force. Sometimes, it comes from within, from a loss of curiosity, a willingness to accept limitations, and a failure to challenge authority. The main character stands out not because he is heroic in a traditional sense, but because he refuses to accept silence. The society built by the apes is another layer of complexity. It isn't chaotic or overtly cruel. In many ways, it is efficient and well-organized. There are laws, institutions, and systems that function effectively. This makes the injustice harder to recognize because everything appears stable. The filmmakers intentionally avoided portraying the apes as purely evil. Instead, they created a system that feels reasonable on the surface. This makes resistance seem irrational or disruptive rather than justified. The society doesn't need constant violence to maintain control. It relies on participation and belief. Religion within this world plays a crucial role, but not in the way it is often depicted in films. It isn't just a matter of personal faith. It acts as a structural foundation for the entire society. Doctrine defines what can be known and what must remain unquestioned. Belief becomes a tool for maintaining order, limiting curiosity, and protecting the existing system. This creates a situation where questioning authority isn't just seen as rebellious, it is viewed as dangerous. The fusion of belief and control makes the system incredibly stable and difficult to challenge. Perhaps the most powerful element of all is the use of language. The removal of speech from humans is one of the film's most devastating choices. Language is more than communication. It is identity, memory, and resistance. Without it, individuals lose their ability to express themselves, to question their reality, and to connect with others in meaningful ways. Silence becomes a form of control that is more effective than physical force. When the main character speaks, it is not just surprising, it is threatening. It represents the possibility of a different reality, one that challenges everything the system depends on. What makes all of these elements so effective is how quietly they are presented. The film doesn't rely on spectacle or obvious messaging. Instead, it builds a world that feels logical and consistent, then allows the implications to emerge naturally. That subtlety is what makes it so enduring. The ideas it explores are not tied to a specific time or place. They remain relevant because they reflect fundamental aspects of human behavior, our relationship with power, our tendency to accept systems without questioning them, and our vulnerability to losing what makes us human in the first place. In the end, the film's greatest strength is its refusal to provide easy answers. It doesn't tell the audience what to think or how to feel. It simply presents a world that feels uncomfortably plausible and leaves the rest to interpretation. That lingering discomfort is intentional. It forces viewers to reflect not just on the story, but on the systems and beliefs that shape their own reality. And that is what makes it far more than just a science fiction film. It becomes a mirror, one that is difficult to look away from once you've seen what it reveals.